Okie dokie, we're live on the Saturday Breakout. Jim Dunaway is in Tuscaloosa. I'm Ryan Brown in the home studio. Wow, Dunaway, did not expect that.
Boy, I tell you, Ed Orgeron didn't want to let go of the keys to his house, did he? The eviction notice wasn't as easy as everyone thought it was going to be. Hats off to Ed Orgeron, man. I watched him during the timeouts. The guy was jumping around. I mean, he's playing literally with their money, their house money. But he was encouraging his guys. I mean, it was a constant motivational theme from Ed Orgeron tonight. And he had those guys ready to play. A lot of questions for Alabama. Lucky to get out of here with a win.
There's no doubt. It is the Saturday Breakout presented by Culver's. There are two great locations soon. One right now, just off 150 and 459 Stadium Trace there in Hoover, near the Hoover Med. And also coming soon, 280 and Tattersall Park. Jim Dunaway's in Tuscaloosa. I'm Ryan Brown. And what we saw tonight was one of the stranger Alabama games I've watched in a very long time. Alabama was just awful on offense. Absolutely awful on offense. I think I would have to go back, Jim, just off the top of my head, to the 2014 Arkansas game where I think Alabama won 14-13 to remember a time when Alabama was that bad offensively.
Yeah, as I tweeted, I don't remember an offensive line that is protected as bad as these guys since the Honk Isaac Brody game. If Bryce Young can't get out of the pressure, nobody can. And there were some just jailbreaks on him tonight. They did not push that line one time all night. I tweeted with 12 minutes to go in the game, Alabama had 14 rushing yards, 14 of them.
It got worse.
0.7 yards a carry there. So the offensive line didn't have a lot going in their direction, and then you're sloppy, man. There were delay of games, there were misalignments, and just a ton of penalties. It was a lot like College Station, just not against as good of a team.
Yeah, you can't run the football. I mean, Jim, if you had told, I would have told you were absolutely crazy if you told me Alabama had these rush numbers in this game. I mean, with that, sight unseen, if you told me they couldn't run the ball any better than this against LSU, everybody runs on LSU. I mean, this is just, it's an indictment of Bill O'Brien and Doug Marrone, the two coaches that came in out of the NFL, and they're not getting the job done. Alabama's offense is very undependable. It seems to have absolutely no rhythm, no plan. Their run game is no good. They can't block for the pass. They can't block for the run. They're a turnstile at right tackle. This offensive line has not been developed. This offense is a huge issue for Alabama moving forward. And actually, the defense seems to be playing better. And now they don't have any offensive support hardly.
I would tell you two things on that. One, Bryce Young gets them out of a lot of mistakes on the offensive line in the pass game. And number two is I miss the flow and rhythm of the play calling from the Kiffin and the Sark days and a little bit of the Brian Dable days. I mean, he was struggling a little bit with, Jalen Hurts as the quarterback most of that year. But there was a rhythm to the play calling and, some things that set up the next thing or this that sets up that. And I'm not a football X's and O's guy, X and O guy. And maybe you can't have rhythm in play calling if you don't have an offensive line that's functioning. But you're right. This offense is broken, and I think what scares everybody, it's broken coming out of a bye week, and that's alarming. The mistakes. You go back and you look at Nick Saban teams. This is when they start to usually turn it on when they have a championship quality team, and it's yet to be determined if this is one of those. But when they have a championship quality team, it is this week and moving forward. If they come out of this bye week sort of reinvigorated and with a sense of purpose. And tonight, I'm not judging their effort. They played with great effort tonight. They just could not get out of their way a lot of times. And you give LSU some credit for that.
I mean, I do want to give LSU credit because they came in and they played hard. They played with emotion that Alabama did not have. They were clearly, I think, trying to send their coach out in a game they know is important to him and to their school, send him out with a win in his final time in that game. They played for it or not. But this is beyond just this game. These are ongoing issues for Alabama football. The offense has not had rhythm all year long. There's not a time they've had it in spurts. I can think of like first quarter of the Florida game. Everything was it was in rhythm, and it was just moving the way it was supposed to. Florida made adjustments. Alabama didn't. Then all of a sudden, nothing's working against Florida. But there has never been a time, and you're comparing it to Kiffin and Sarkisian, who had that type of rhythm where it looked like they had a plan. It looked like they had a strategy. And maybe you can't just pin this all on Bill O'Brien. I can't believe I'm about to say what I'm about to say. I was about to say maybe he doesn't have the personnel. This is Alabama, Jim. How would he not have the personnel?
Oh, they've got the personnel. They've got the personnel. That's what Clemson, I guess, has the personnel too, and they're struggling. LSU has the personnel, and they're struggling. So maybe it's not all personnel, but they've got the personnel. Do they have the personnel to get where all the fans want them to go? It doesn't look like it right now, but, more football to be played. We watch every Saturday when we do this breakout. You see things like the other teams around the country losing, right? You see all the teams that don't leave a stadium with a victory. But this is you've had the Texas A&M loss. I think this one is going to feel sort of like the Florida win felt. It's going to have a lot of people going, it's a win. But I'm more concerned now than I was before you played the game. And that's the way I'm going to leave the stadium tonight is, there's not, Arkansas, that's not a give me after New Mexico State. Auburn, even though they lost today, that's not a give me. Georgia looks like it can't be done right now. I'll say it like that. It doesn't look like you can beat Georgia right now.
Well, I don't know how Alabama moves the ball consistently on Georgia's defensive front. They would have to throw the ball every down like they did tonight. They would have to, it would feel like against Georgia, they would have to use the game plan they used tonight. And then against that Georgia pass rush, how do you not get Bryce Young killed?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
He took some hits tonight. You may have been getting to that, but he took some licks. Not just that one when he was running that the crowd was so upset that it wasn't targeting that they were disrupting the offense, calling the next play, and they had to burn a timeout. But he took hits in the pocket. He took some hits tonight. The little guy kept getting up after getting punished on several hits.
Yeah, the one that Saban was wanting the targeting, which wasn't targeting. I've seen, but as I pointed out on Twitter, and people, I don't know, it's Twitter. I've seen worse. I've seen less call targeting, actually. I've seen less than that call targeting. I didn't want a targeting call. I thought he led with his shoulder. I thought it was a good football hit. Bryce Young got to get down there. I appreciate him trying to get yardage, but if Bryce Young got hurt, Alabama might lose the rest of their games, except for New Mexico State or whatever. So, he's got to get down there. He's got to take care of himself. I appreciate his determination and his willingness to get more yards, but he's about the only thing they've got working on this offense right now. And I think what concerns Alabama fans leaving this game tonight, Jim, is that what you saw tonight, you go back before the bye week, you saw for 3 quarters of the Tennessee game. And then there was that one quarter, the fourth quarter, where Alabama's offense exploded. They ended up winning by 28, and everything felt okay when you left the stadium. But for 3 quarters of that game, it looked a lot like 4 quarters tonight. So 7 of the last 8 quarters, Alabama's played like this, and that's troublesome.
Yeah, and you thought after the long pass to Jamison, which was a beautiful deep ball, by the way, it's thrown perfectly. I don't know if it looked as pretty on television as it looked here in person, but in person, when he stepped into it and he threw it, and it just, it's like watching a home run or a good putt. You can tell when the putt leaves the guy that, that's going to go in the hole. It's 40 feet away, but it still goes in the hole. Or a home run, when it leaves the bat, it's like a Soler home run. It's going to go out of the park. As soon as he let go of it, you just knew it was a perfect pass, and it was. It dropped in. It was a thing of beauty. And that's when you thought, okay, this is about the LSU's they're not going to respond because they've got no reason to respond. And this Alabama team's going to throw in a couple more touchdowns, and they're going to win this thing 35-7 or something like that. And speaking of the score, 49-yard field goal. We've got spoiled. Will Reichert usually makes that. Missed an extra point. The snap and hold wasn't smooth all night long there. Just another, Aaron Suttles of Bama and Bourbon, he and I sat next to each other in the press box tonight, big part of the Double Down Media family. And he goes, I don't even know where to start writing about this. I don't even know how you even describe this. And I said, sloppy, man. Play off of sloppy. I don't know. Sloppy Joes. I don't know. It was just sloppy, in my opinion. You can't find a part of the game. I mean, the fake punt was out of a timeout, and Alabama was in safety. I mean, they were in safety. They weren't rushing. They weren't trying to block the punt. They were in safety, and it was out of a timeout. You don't get fooled on a fake out of a timeout. You don't get fooled on a fake out of a timeout. But, hey, I love that play design. You're running up there, and one of your up blockers is going to end up being the receiver. You run up there, and you do a little pop and jump J to him. That was a good play call from Ed Orgeron and his crazy band from Baton Rouge. Man, they laid it on the line. You know what? That Ed Orgeron guy, I saw Reddit College Football on Twitter tonight. They said, man, if they hold on and win this game or come back and win this game, they should take the interim off Ed's name and let him be the head coach.
That's what Peter Burns pointed that out. Is all it took was Orgeron becoming the interim again. The guy's the best. He does his best work as an interim coach.
He does. I mean, he was a different guy tonight.
Yep, he was. It is the Saturday Breakout presented by Culver's. Welcome to Delicious, two great locations soon. One right now off 459 and 115 Stadium Trace right there. And out near the Hoover Met, coming soon to Tattersall Park off 119 and 280. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. But we talked a lot about the offense. The defense was far from perfect, Jim, but uncharacteristic. I mean, they're not really accustomed to this. I guess they kind of had this in College Station and Feld. But time and time again in the second half, this game was put on their shoulders, and this is far from a dynamic LSU offense. But you got to give the Alabama defense credit for continuing to deliver in those situations.
Yeah, time and time again, LSU had ball in hand with a chance to walk it off out of Bryant-Denny Stadium and go back to Baton Rouge. And they stopped them there, including down in the red zone, where it was going to, what was that? That was about 5 minutes left or 6 minutes left. Where they had the tuck rule, which I thought was a good call too. Initially, I thought it was a fumble. There's going to be no way it was overturned. But then you watch the replay, and he fought his arm forward and got it going. Yeah, you're right. Time and time again, they made some defensive plays. But just when you were ready to, pat him on the back, they would let a receiver run wide open and get into the scoring position. So it's a work in progress. Nick Saban's about to address those fans that are still here in the post game. So he's quick to the podium tonight. I don't read anything into that other than this is the biggest recruiting weekend that Nick Saban has here. And I used to, do his coach's show. And on a night like this, he will breeze through this media availability that is just starting. He will walk through the recruits, then come back out on the field and breeze through the Nick Saban show with Chris Stewart. Now they do it in their studio. And then he'll go spend time with all the 5-star and 4-star recruits that are here tonight. And it's the largest recruiting group of the year.
Well, and you bring them there thinking you're going to get a good atmosphere and a big win, maybe a big, fired up stadium. You don't want them in New Mexico State. You want them in a situation like this. Yeah, it didn't really. I'll be honest with you. Everything seemed flat at the start of this game. Team, fans, band, cheerleaders, Big Al, everything but the blimp seemed flat to start this game.
Yeah, that's a fair way to say it. Again, we're in closed press boxes now, but Aaron Settles and I opened as many small windows as we could to hear the crowd, and it was it wasn't like 2019. Few games will ever be like that again. It wasn't like 2011. It took a little bit for the crowd to get into it because I think everybody thought they were coming to see a beatdown. I really think fans. I went out to do a live shot for CBS 42 right after the Auburn game to talk a little bit about that game, and when I was out there, I promise you, Brown. There had to be 5,000, 7,000 people still walking over from the quad, making their way in. The game had already kicked off. So, just a late arriving crowd that thought, hey, I hate to put my beer down to go in here and watch a 45-10 beatdown, but let's go do it real quick and then come back out here. and that was sort of the attitude to start with.
Bob asked this question before we take a quick break here. What is worse, the Alabama offensive line or Bill O'Brien's play calling? That's like one of those 3-and-out questions that Lance asked, where we always say, both are true, neither is true. I don't like either one. I like them both. What's worse, Alabama O-line or Bill O'Brien play calling?
Alabama O-line would be my answer. And, I don't know, and I've said this once already this year, and I'll say it again. Usually by this time of the year, they have moved some pieces around and found some cohesiveness on the offensive line. And that hasn't happened. And I don't know if it's because the younger guys that are there supposedly pushing the starters, which is the Alabama way under Nick Saban. I don't know if they haven't come along the way that was expected. But there are some guys that are playing that truthfully, and I won't name names, but there were some guys that are playing that people who knew offensive line told me early in the year they didn't think they would be, a starter by the end of the year, and they're out there, they're still playing, and none of the young guys have worked their way in there a lot. So that's a little surprising to me, but I think that is a big concern moving forward, especially when you play Georgia, who may have a defense for the ages. Hey, and I'll tell you, Auburn's defense. I know we're going to take a break and then talk about Auburn, but even before if you make it to Georgia, when you got to play Auburn, their defense cleared up today. They laid it on the line.
They did. This is the Culver's Saturday Breakout. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. All right, it's the Saturday Breakout presented by Culver's. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. 2 great locations soon. One right now, Tattersall Park is coming soon, but right now, Stadium Trace, 150 and 459 is where you go for that one. Tattersall Park, Highway 280 and 119, coming soon. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. Auburn goes on the road to Texas A&M, Jim, and we talked about how bad Alabama's offense was. Auburn's equally bad, probably maybe even a little bit worse. 20-3, Auburn just could get nothing going offensively. We had talked about this week, Road Bo, right? Road Bo Nix used to be the worst version of Bo Nix. We thought maybe Road Bo had died. Road Bo dug back out of the grave, came back alive today in College Station. It was not a good day for him.
It was like this. It was like, here we go. Little dramatic effect for you there, which will not be good on the audio replay on Monday morning. I can't mix words. He was not accurate. He was not good today. But I would also tell you that, and I agree with Justin Hokeson, friend of the show on 3 Sports, Bo was not good, but he is not the only problem with that offense. They, too, have an offensive line problem, and they were playing a Texas A&M team that caused Alabama all sorts of problems pressuring the quarterback, except that night Bryce Young was able to do things to keep Alabama fighting in that game, scoring some points in that game. And Bo couldn't get that done today because he was not accurate enough. So, it was a problem running the ball for Auburn today because I thought Texas A&M's game plan defensively was really good. Mike Bobo had found something in calling plays the last 2 games. I thought he looked really good. But if I'm right, Texas A&M had a bye last week. And they were able, taking those last 2 weeks of what Bobo had found with this team, and they were able to scheme it up really well today. It looked like their safeties were walking down in the box, daring them to beat them throwing the football, and they couldn't make them pay for walking those safeties down.
Well, the thing that concerns you with Auburn's defense is giving up 217 rush yards to Texas A&M. It's going to be hard to win on the road, even if Bo Nix plays well, giving up 217 rush yards. Calzada was Calzada. I mean, again, that's what this guy is. 15 of 29, 192 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He's tough as he can be. I mean, he got absolutely destroyed. His arm's just hanging down. Looks like it's hanging by a vein. He looks concussed. He goes to the magic medical tent and comes out and comes back in the game. I mean, the guy is tough as he can be, but he's not a good quarterback. And somehow, with this guy playing this way, A&M continues to win. It's crazy.
It is. somebody's got to be the 13th best team in the country. Every Saturday you watch it, you're like, boy, I'm glad I'm not voting in the top 25 this week. I'm glad I'm not voting in the top 25 this week. God bless those 13 souls locked in a closet in Dallas and tell them to come out with 4 teams for the playoffs. But in that game, you had a run where I think he missed on 9 of 11 of his passes consecutively, Calzada. And then I think it was Hope again that tweeted this stat out. From Auburn's field goal on their first drive, their next 42 plays produced 89 yards.
That's crazy.
That's what Auburn was able to do. That was while the game was in progress, but from that opening drive field goal, the next 42 plays, according to Hope, produced 89 yards. So for a while, I thought that was on pace to be the fastest CBS game ever because it was flying by because both offenses were not doing a lot. Both defenses were collecting up. And as I said going to the break, that Auburn defense today, held them to a field goal, held them to a missed field goal, held them to a field goal, held them to a field goal. It's 9-3, and you're just waiting on your offense. So finally, you bend, and they get a touchdown, but you end up giving them a touchdown on a stupid score. It just it was not a great day for that offense, and I thought the defense played good enough to win it.
Yeah, they did, and I think so. I mean, again, you get a 217 rush yard. It's going to be hard to win on the road. I agree. You hold A&M to 20 points, you think you probably win that game with halfway competent offensive play, and Auburn didn't get that. They only scored 3 points, and you mentioned how fast the game was going. They joked at one point, Gary did. Gary and Bradley felt like on the game. It was going so fast. So, yeah, it was kind of that style of game. But just a rough day for Auburn's offense. Where, you thought they had made progress, and now here you go into this difficult stretch to finish the season, and all of a sudden, I think you got to question where are you offensively, because I think it's again, I'll go back to what I said about Alabama. The alarming trend for Alabama was the first 3 quarters of the Tennessee game coupled with the 4 quarters you saw tonight. The alarming trend for Auburn, the last 2 quarters of the Ole Miss game plus all 4 quarters today. 6 straight quarters, they haven't really done much on offense, and that's alarming if you're an Auburn fan.
I would agree with that, but they sort of are exactly where we thought they would be. It's felt better. It's felt better getting here than we thought it was going to feel for this team. But they're sort of where we thought they would be. If you go back and look, you thought they'd lose to Georgia. You thought they'd lose to Penn State. You thought they'd lose to Texas A&M. So really, they've won every game they're supposed to win, and they haven't won any that they were not supposed to win. And for those of you that picked them to be 8-4, you have them losing to Alabama, and that's what they would be. So, I don't think you can give Brian Harsin, a horrible grade right now. They've had some good moments this year. They really have had some good moments. LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, those have been some good moments, and I don't think a lot of people thought they'd have a lot of good moments this year. So it's a tough way to grade that team because of how bad they look offensively sometimes. But right now, I think they're exactly who we thought they were.
What do? You mentioned the committee members. Alabama's got no business being number 2, but make a case for me on somebody who moved to number 2. Make that case for me.
Oh, who? Michigan State fell. Here's a question for you. If you're Purdue, why the hell do you not just schedule nothing but top 5 teams? Because those are the ones you win. You can't beat anybody else. You beat the top 5. So why not just say each week we'll leave a blank in our schedule, just send somebody in the top 5 to play us in West Lafayette? Because apparently we're good at that, and we're not good at anything else. Yeah. So I'd start with that. If I was Purdue, I'd say only play top 5 teams. If I'm Florida, I leave Dan Mullen in Columbia, South Carolina, not the country. I leave him in Columbia and tell him to find his way home. Good luck. 5L Dan, find your way home. If I was Florida, I would do that. And as far, Ohio State, I watched every second of that game today, and I kept thinking to myself, well, at first I thought to myself, we've been too hard on Scott Frost. And we've been too hard on Scott Frost. That team has played a tremendously tough schedule, and they have lost some really tough, close games. So I think we've been too hard on Scott Frost. They're close. They're close. If I was a Nebraska fan, I would not want to change coaches. And I know people are going to say I'm wrong on that. I think I look around the country, and I'm like, God, we played a lot of tough games. We had no business being in that game against Ohio State. We had no business being in that game against Oklahoma. We're in those games. I think Scott Frost has done a better job than Sark has.
Well, yeah,
so,
I wouldn't disagree with that. Here, which stat blows you away? First of all, that was Nebraska. They've got 3 wins. That was their first double-digit loss, which is amazing. How about this one? Nebraska has outscored their Big Ten opponents now 190 to 176, and they're 1-6. Make that one make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying, man. It's so easy for us just to flush coaches. You can tell me why you want to flush Ed Orgeron. I understand it. I understand it because I feel like his personal life got into his professional life. I don't know if that to be true, but that seems to be what everybody says. Maybe his head got too big, for his britches. Dan Mullen, it just feels like, God, he seems to be grumpy and not happy. And can we really ever be good if he's not getting along with the AD or some of the fans, and if he's not recruiting well? But Scott Frost, he's us. He's one of us, and I think I would hold Scott Frost. I think I would sell Dan Mullen. I'd feel guilty about what we did to Ed after what he did here tonight, and I would tell Dan Mullen to stay in Columbia. I really would if I was. And Scott Strickland used to be at Auburn, and he was one of the nicest people in the world. If I was Scott, I wouldn't wish Dan Mullen nothing, I think.
40-17, they lost that game. Now, I didn't have the volume up from what I can gather by jumping over at halftime of the Bama game. They were dealing with some flu situations. Emory Jones himself was, but, I mean, that's it. I don't know, man. 40-17 to South Carolina. South Carolina, the 3 worst teams in the conference are South Carolina, Vandy, and Missouri, and they beat your brakes off, man. I mean, hey, and by the way, there's a chance now, a fair chance that Beamer can get them to a bowl game. If he gets them 6-6 to a bowl game, I think he needs Coach of the Year consideration. He won't get it, but I think he gets some consideration.
I think nothing would be more fitting for this season than Zeb Nolan getting a Birmingham Bowl watch. There'd be nothing better than us at the next round presenting Zeb Nolan with our Birmingham Bowl watch of the year to Zeb Nolan.
I like it. You mentioned Ohio State. They slipped past Nebraska. Nebraska had every chance to make that a game. 26-17 was the final. Nebraska just, man, they can't catch a break, honestly. Wake Falls 58-55. North Carolina wins that one. Not an ACC game, but as far as Wake's undefeated season, it is now over, and the ACC might be done too, Jim.
Tell me a bigger gap in the country between a more exciting offense and the worst defense you've ever seen. Tell me a bigger gap.
No, they can't stop anybody because Army went up and down the Army went up and down the field on them. And let me tell you, Wake, I thought Lance had been a little too big. Uh-oh, we've lost Dunaway. Dunaway is gone. We're about to wrap anyway. And here's what I'll say. I thought Lance had been a little too big on the Wake quarterback, but watching him some today, he and those receivers, it's a really, really good offense. Their defense is just absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Jim's right. I don't know that there is a bigger gap between great offense and just absolutely no defense than what you've got there. All right, let's see. Michael says the Alabama offensive line will be the whole trash segment. Wow, that's been bad. But an entire trash segment, that's pretty good. iService says Alabama's offensive line is absolutely pathetic. We got a lot of that over here, a lot of that. Well, I'm trying to dig through these. You guys have been heavy over here in the chat room, the Farmfolio chat room. Michael, how can Doug Marrone not do a better job of the offensive line? Jay, Nebraska has to take a hard look in the mirror, realize they aren't the best of the ball, and there aren't a ton of openings this year. There are not. I don't know what you do if you're Nebraska. I really don't. Dave says, do you think Dan Mullen is on a hot seat that's about to catch on fire? Yes, I do. You can't even. I don't know how else you would describe what that is. I mean, to lose to that South Carolina team 40-17. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, it's horrific. I don't know how you recover from that. Lester says Alabama may not beat Arkansas. I think every game Alabama, other than New Mexico State, any other game Alabama plays is in question. With this offense and this offensive line, any other game Alabama plays is in question. I'm trying to get as many of you as I can on here before we get out of here. Brett says, good news for Alabama. 2 top 10 teams lose. 2 others have struggle wins. Everybody other than Georgia is struggling right now. Ohio State has had their struggles. Oklahoma's already been punished for their struggles. Oregon is, as we do this live, in a dogfight with Washington with a couple minutes to go. So it is seemingly everybody behind Georgia's having their struggles. Cincinnati was lucky to win that game against Tulsa. That's a 3-5 Tulsa. Cincinnati's last 3 opponents are combined 6-20, and they've struggled to beat those teams. Taylor, one more comment on Auburn before we get out of here. Auburn doesn't have anyone Bo could throw the ball to. They're not great at receiver. There's no doubt about that. That is a huge issue for them. They are not great at receiver. All right, that's going to do it for the Saturday Breakout presented by Culver's. We are live Monday, 9 until 1 with Bo Nix. Should be interesting. And the Nick Saban news conference also should be interesting. And your phone calls at 205-734-0923, 205-734-0923. You can hit us up in the chat room as well. Your reaction Monday. You guys are fired up right now. I know you will be Monday as well. As for now, though, this is the Saturday Breakout presented by Culver's. Welcome to Delicious.